They get the win, but is it a bad sign that they had to go to OT with the Minnesota Timberwolves, who weren't at full strength?
No, I don't think it's a bad sign. When you get in this scenario of a play-in, every team is going to play with a sense of desperation, minus the Miami Heat last night, which we'll get to in a second. But the defense is going to be the Lakers' calling card in this playoff run. And in particular, the fourth quarter down the stretch last night and in overtime showed me that they are an elite defensive team. They completely cut off the Timberwolves. They defended the three-point line, which they struggled with at times last night. So I'm not concerned because of the desperation, because of the one-and-done scenario here, and obviously Minnesota gets another game. I'm not concerned. I'll tell you what is concerning for me, though, if I'm the Lakers, is the botched defensive coverage at the end of regulation. 1.4 seconds on the clock. They run a simple flare screen to free Mike Conley. And the two guys involved in that screen are Anthony Davis and LeBron James. Your two best players, two vets in the NBA. That is a very simple switch, which Anthony Davis didn't do. The reason I bring this up is because, first of all, Matt Ryan for the Lakers hit a shot to beat the Pelicans on basically the same play earlier in the season. It's not like they haven't seen that play before. They have it in their own playbook. Well, the reason I bring this up, last year in Game 1, Klay Thompson hit a game-winning three against the Memphis Grizzlies. They botched the switch. When the Lakers won the bubble, the championship in 2020, Anthony Davis hit a game winner against the Denver Nuggets in the Western Conference Finals.
Yes, he did.
Mason Plumlee and Will Barton botched the switch. This is the stuff that causes concern, because a playoff series and a momentum in a playoff series can come down to a single play. And I wasn't pleased last night with that coverage from Anthony Davis and LeBron James.
Well, I appreciate you dissecting it the way that it did. And by the way, just so the audience knows, I'm like suffering from a slight case of laryngitis. My voice is compromised. So but I'm going to sound a little different today.
So it's a mellow SM.
No. Mellow's a little bit different. I'm a little down with this throat, but that's okay. I'm here. Here's the deal. I get where you're coming from with that, but for me, what was more glaring was the inefficiency offensively. They can make shots. You got to be able to make shots to beat the Memphis Grizzlies. You got to be able to make shots if you're going to really, really make a title run. You can't shoot the ball like that. And I'm thinking along the lines of, I looked at Anthony Davis playing big boy basketball last night. He needed to. Rudy Gobert wasn't obviously in the lineup. Karl Anthony Towns could have been a little bit more aggressive, but he got some foul trouble, and I get all of that. But when I look at the Beasleys of the world, the D'Angelo Russells of the world, who had an awful game, Schrader, thank God for him, because I thought he played an exceptional game, and he made a big-time shot, obviously, with 1.4 seconds left. I get where you're coming from. I don't disagree with you about the defensive lapse, because that certainly cannot happen. But to me, the bigger, more glaring issue was their inability to make shots. We came into the season not liking their roster because they couldn't make shots. This is just one game, and I understand that. But you can't play like that and win this next series. You got to be able to make those shot opportunities that they had last night. And LeBron James, honestly, he turned the ball over on a few occasions where it was alarm. I was like, what's going on here? But fatigue obviously played the role as well. Go ahead.
I don't like the Lakers at all. Minnesota lost the game more than the Lakers won the game. Towns didn't play in the fourth quarter. He had all sorts of foul trouble. He came in with a 4, and he got his 5th right away. Maybe that had a little something to do with the Laker defense. But I'll tell you right now, I don't think they got a third great player. I think the Lakers are going to walk into a rough spot against Memphis. This team's not that good. LeBron can talk all he wants, and he's great, and we know Anthony Davis. They can talk all they want about how they're going to make this great run. Lakers aren't winning the NBA championship, and they're not going to the finals. The team's not that good. I mean, you could be impressed with that. And Minnesota, listen, Minnesota never closes games. Go ask Memphis last year when they had 30-point leads and they couldn't win a first-round playoff series. Anthony Edwards was lost. Terrible shot selection. Terrible. Hoisting up threes. I don't care about. And he says he's got a bad elbow. You know the old line, if you're injured, don't play. If you play, you're not injured. So I don't want to listen to that. I was and I stayed up to 10 of 1 to see every basket. I was very unimpressed with the Lakers. They are going to get mauled. I know, listen, the Grizzlies, you've been on them all year with Adams and everything else. Wait and see. They're not going deep in the Western Conference playoffs. I know you think they can, so fight me off. Go ahead.
Well, so two things. Number one, first of all, you can't bemoan load management and players sitting out games and then simultaneously get on a guy for playing with a bad elbow.
That's true.
You
I'm not
can't
getting
do
on.
that.
I'm not getting on.
No,
but he
no.
played terribly in the game. He was was he 2 for 13?
He was 3 for 19.
He was awful.
He lost all confidence. There was a chunk at some point late. He realized I just need to go to the hole because he had no confidence in his perimeter shot whatsoever.
On the Grizzlies, so I said this a few weeks ago, and it's obviously been updated based on Woj's report that it's likely Steven Adams is out for the entire playoffs. You know, depending on that first-round matchup with Memphis, and I thought at times it looked like it potentially could be the Minnesota Timberwolves. Prior to Sunday's events with Jaden McDaniels getting hurt and Rudy Gobert getting suspended for this game, that was a matchup I thought they could win because Steven Adams, if you remember, in last year's playoffs, they benched him, and then he came back in, obviously, for the Warriors series. But they basically went to a switching defense with Karl Anthony Towns and really limited what he was able to do after games 1 and 2. I think against the Lakers, I'm not sure it's a great matchup for either team, to be honest with you, which was why I'm really fascinated by this series. And Stephen A. actually makes a great point on the offensive end for the Lakers because the Grizzlies have been a top 3 defense all season. And we talk about the Lakers being a top 5 defense since the All-Star break. The Grizzlies have been excellent on that end of the floor all season. To me, and you bring up the turnovers, and I think this is important to note, the Memphis Grizzlies really struggle to score in the half court. To me, if the Lakers can limit their turnovers, I think they have a real chance of winning this series.
Well, when you say that the Grizzlies really struggle to score in the half court, that's great news for the Lakers. Because if you don't turn over the ball, considering their pace of play, they're basically going to beat you with their half-court offense. And if that's how they're going to do it, Memphis is in a world of trouble. I just don't think this Lakers team is going to pull that off against these Memphis Grizzlies because I look at a team with Brooks, with Bain, with Morant. These brothers can score. They'll find a way.
What's the biggest problem when it comes to the Heat?
This is a weird one, but I'm going to throw it out because this was going through my head last night.
Okay.
And you're going to say, really,
Don't
Chris?
tell me what I'm going to say. Just tell us.
JJ might say it. He's been there 15 years. Mm-hmm. He's been there 15 years, and he's a great coach.
Right.
15 years is a long time in any sport to be there for 15 years. Parcells used to say, 10, I got to get out. 10 is enough. No, obviously, Belichick has been there forever. I mean, Phil Jackson got out in Philadelphia. I got out with the Bulls and the Lakers. It's about 10 years. Riley left after the Lakers in the 80s after 10 years. I mean, they were awful last night. There was no sense of urgency. I almost get the idea they've reached their limit with this group. You can't trade. You know, who are you going to trade? You're not trading Jimmy Butler. You're not trading Bam. They just signed Hero to that huge contract. I know this is wacky, and he's a great coach.
Yeah.
I would not be shocked. I was thinking about it. And Riley's he's tough. I would not be. He took Stan out of there, and he won a championship. He took over at halfway season. He don't care, Riley. I would not be shocked if deep in his mind he's saying, you know what? Maybe this team needs a new voice. I know that's a little wacky. That was what was going through my mind last night.
When I think about the Miami Heat, right or wrongly, this is just my thought process. And I know I joke around about stuff like this, but I'm kind of serious when I say this. Certain cities and the distractions, there's something to be said about succeeding in L.A., Miami, and places like that because it's easy to find other things to do. And you do find yourself at times looking at certain players and saying to yourself, there's a comfort level. I show up to work every day, I do my job, I go home, I live my life, etc. The level of urgency seems to be lacking. I don't know whether that's the case with Miami. Here's what I think it is with Miami. I'm definitely looking at the players instead of Eric Spoelstra because I know Eric Spoelstra knows what the hell he's doing. And I know how committed he is. There have been times when you looked at Miami and you as players and you said, where's your head at? Because you know they could play better than they've played. They don't seem to be together. They don't seem to be a team. They seem to be individual parts that just wear the same uniform and show up. And if you're talking about a change, that's where the change comes in because obviously the coach has some level of responsibility to correct that. But I would also bring in Pat Riley because Spoelstra is definitely an extension of Pat Riley. And Pat Riley is as tough and as hard as they come in terms of being rigid about things being done the way he believes they should be done. that possibly played a role. Listen, LeBron had denied and all of that other stuff. But there were things that Riley could have done to sort of like pull off the reins a little bit. This was LeBron James after all. And he wasn't willing to modify his positions in certain respects. And I know that for a fact. Figure out how I know that. But I know that for a fact. He could have laid off a little bit. I'm just saying I don't know what the problem is, but it ain't just as simple as guys on the basketball court and they're not good enough. No, something's missing. They don't seem to like one another, or they don't seem to be all in together, or whatever the case may be. And whoever needs to be held responsible for that needs to go.
Well, look, I think there's a lot to unpack with the Miami Heat and the way that they played basketball this season.
Okay.
I think a very simple thing, and before we get esoteric, a very simple thing is they haven't made shots this year.
Okay.
They're one of the worst three-point shooting teams
That's true.
in the NBA. And the guys that are tasked with making shots, Max Strus, Duncan Robinson, Gabe Vincent, Hero, Kyle Lowry,
right,
who had a great game last night. They haven't shot the ball well this year. And this is a team that relies on Jimmy Butler getting to the free throw line, Bam Adebayo scoring out of the high post, scoring in isolation. Like, there is a math problem when you can't make threes in today's NBA. So there's that. The part for me that's disappointing has been, whether you call it chemistry together, like, it's been bad body language all season. I don't know if there's issues within that locker room. It just seems like the Miami Heat that made the conference finals last year, the Miami Heat that made the NBA finals in 2020, it felt like those groups were all pushing together in the same direction. And when you watch them play this year, it doesn't look that way. It looks like a lot of them don't like each other. Right. I'll be honest with you. And whether that's on Spo or not, I don't know, because I'm not in that locker room. But I'm just telling you what I've observed this year in watching them play basketball. It's so weird to me to say this, because I just inherently don't feel this way about basketball when I analyze basketball. But people always say, well, this team just wanted it more. And in watching that game last night, like, it's one of the first times I could ever remember being like, no, the Hawks actually just wanted it more.
They did.
They didn't shoot the ball well either last night.
Well, look at the offensive
But
rebounds.
they got 22 offensive rebounds. Clint Capella had 13. They punked Miami. When have you ever said that about a Miami Heat team?
Never.
Never.
Never. Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.